What's up, people of YouTube? I'm Karsatowski, and welcome back to the Karsatowski Bowling YouTube channel. So for today's bowling breakdown, we have the 1992 PBA Paula Carter Homestead Classic. So let's get on to the title match. Alright, here we go for the 1992 PBA Paula Carter Homestead Classic featuring Harry Sullins and Brian Voss. All right. Brian Voss had pretty much his best decade in the 90s overall. And Brian Voss has a career total of 25 PBA Tour titles, including just one major. And he would have Player of the Year honors, I believe in 1988, if I'm not mistaken. All right, good pickup. Here's Harry Sullins, sporting a zebra pattern wrist guard, and he goes light for his opening strike. Starts with the ball about over his shoulder and has very interesting knee bend. Doesn't have a terribly high backswing, but he really gets that elbow cupped. And that's a little bit more like a power throw that you'd see today. Yeah, this looks a little bit more like a power game that you're used to seeing today, and that ball just checked up real early, probably missed a little bit left and went Brooklyn. Back then, a lot of players pretty much used one towel for everything. As you see, he used it basically as a napkin and then as a ball towel. I've seen people use it to wipe their forehead off the sweat and also to wipe their shoes. Oh, my goodness. Man, that sailed past it. Look at this. Man, that pin felt the breeze. Nice knee bend from Brian Voss. Great touch on the ball to get it to barely strike. Anytime another sport comes on as an ad for bowling, unless it's like horse racing and yeah, really except for horse racing on here, and I just kind of like tune out. Not really into a whole lot of other sports other than bowling, and like I mentioned, horse racing, which, by the way, the Triple Crown had ended by the time this video comes out about 3 weeks ago, and I am unashamedly 3 for 3 with picking winners in the Triple Crown. And if all of you are into horse racing, what did you think of the Triple Crown season? I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyway, back to bowling. Okay, so Harry Sullins, man, that was a wild miss spare. Yeah, it's almost like he was trying to go for a 3-6-10 pickup and go light on the 3-pin, but it didn't pan out too well, and he got himself a light mixer on that frame. So that lane looks like he's got it dialed in pretty well. He'll just need to make a little bit of an adjustment to get his ball to finish high flush. And then the second frame, I think he just missed real bad. He probably doesn't need to move. I think he just probably lost it at the bottom and missed it way inside. Okay, yeah, I think the previous shot on that lane was just missed way left. That was a much better shot. But his ball still getting through the pins a little weird. Might need to make a little bit of adjustment. There's the trophy. Yep, it's in front of a bush. I think that's a sailfish or something like that. Okay, Brian Voss going into the 4th frame, leads by 2 pins. Brian Voss has a really good game if you're just getting into bowling and you want to really learn the basics. Just follow Brian Voss's game, because he pretty much does everything that you want to do as a bowler mechanically. There's really not any flaws in his game at all. There's not a whole lot of moving parts, so there's not a whole lot that you can really mess up, and you can learn it relatively quickly. And if you can master that kind of game, then you can eventually implement a little bit more advanced tactics, like what Harry Sullins does in cupping his wrist and elbow at the bottom of the swing. And Brian Voss doesn't really do that as much, especially as much as the power players today, but Brian Voss is a really good template for any bowlers who are just getting into bowling in general and want to get better. That's another light mixer. So not a whole lot of high flush strikes today. They're finding their way to the pocket, but they're just not hitting high flush yet. So he does get a little bit of action in his wrist and elbow, but not quite as much like hooking the whole lane as a lot of players today can. You can hear the thumb hole pop, and that's definitely his best shot of the match. Okay, so now he takes a 9-pin advantage. So that missed spare is not quite as looming now, especially since Voss has not doubled yet. Yeah, those towels, I mean, especially that white towel, I mean, I'm sure those things don't last very long at all. Like, you'd have to wash those. Well, you probably should wash them after every tournament, because you're bowling 30, 40 plus games to just get into the stepladder. But yeah, those towels, I'm sure they get beat up by the end of every season. And look at that. That may have been just a little too slow. And he's got himself a split. I don't know why did he sit down for? He left the split and he just sat down. Oh, I thought that was going to slide by again. I thought that was going to slide right by the 4-pin, and it didn't. I think something might have distracted him. Well, Brian has not yet thrown a double, but this would be a really good time to do so. Okay, another good light mixer. Okay, so he has taken a pretty good advantage. Now let's see if he can get himself a turkey and extend his lead even more. Don and Paula Carter. Don Carter is a legendary bowler on the PBA Tour. There's Emilio Monticelli, 2-time Player of the Year. So Don Carter won 7 titles on the national tour, and all but one of them are majors, which is a record on the PBA Tour that no other player has. And then Paula Carter is a legendary PWBA bowler, and both of them had the mixed doubles title named after them for a long time. Now it's the Lucy. It's the Strike Against Breast Cancer mixed doubles tournament, which I think it's still named after Don and Paula Carter, but everybody just calls it the Lucy now, because it is just an incredibly long name for a tournament. Probably the longest name for any bowling tournament ever. So Yeah, the Lucy. And yeah, so Don and Paula Carter's legacy definitely carries over to this day. And this was a tournament they had on the PBA Tour, singles tournament though. But giving Paula Carter a little bit of light on the tour, because I think she might be the only bowler. I think she might be the only PWBA player to ever have a tournament on the men's tour named after a woman, I think. And that's the shot clock timer that you can see at the bottom right. He's getting off balance a little bit, so that's going to affect his shot. But he's just trying to pipe it up there and claw his way back in this match. And throwing that double really helps. Brian Voss going into the 8th frame leads by 5. So let's see if Brian can get him a good strike here. Missed it right. Yep, looks like there's pretty decent amount of oil to the right. He lives the baby split for a left-hander. Very makeable though, but it's also a very choppable spare. And I say this every time, but I like that there's literally a guy who stands like 3 feet away from the pin deck and chucks a ball down the lane and picks up every split that you can think of. And that's the way to do it right there. That's textbook. So that's going to keep him at a slight lead. But Sullins is at a double. So Voss needs to strike in the 9th frame. And whatever he does in the 9th frame, he can't shut out Harry Sullins. But if Harry doesn't strike in the 9th or 10th frame, and Voss were to strike in the 9th frame, then Voss could set himself up to take this match when he comes up in the 10th frame. It's a pretty good shot, and that's high flush. Alright, now, so Harry Sullins can strike in the 9th frame and make his job a little bit easier, but he's still going to need to strike in the 9th, 10th, and 11th frames to shut out Brian Voss. Alright. Oh, flat 10. I hate when the 6-pin does that, when it like goes in the gutter and the top of it just goes right in front of the 10-pin, basically taunting it, and just lies dead in the gutter. That's one of my least favorite hits, personally. So double dribbled. Oh, that could have missed it. Whew. Man, if that ball didn't start to hook a little bit, he could have missed that. Whew. Okay, now, whatever Harry Sullins does, he cannot shut out Brian Voss. However, if he strikes in the 10th frame, he forces Brian Voss to pretty much get the first 2 strikes in the 10th frame. So this is not over. All depends on what Harry Sullins does in the 10th frame. Great shot. Perfect shot. Yeah, taking care of his shoe. He's got one of those shoe scrapers. I've got one of them that I use every once in a while. Those things are pretty handy. You kind of don't really want to do that when you're actually on the approach, because a lot of the residue from the sole can get on the approach, and the approach can get kind of tacky. So that's something you kind of want to do in the settee area, or probably next to a trash can would be best, I suppose. Okay, that's perfect. So that shot right there in good count will be enough to force Brian Voss to get the first 2 strikes in the 10th frame. So Harry Sullins is pretty much doing what he needs to do in the 10th frame. Oh, that goes really light. I don't know if that hurt him too much. I mean, it still forces Brian to get the first 2 hits. That was just a bad miss. That was way right. Score of 209. Oh, nice strike. All right, that's just about going to do it for Brian Voss. Just checking the scoreboard, which is something I'd like to do right now too. Yeah, I think he really does need to get another strike. Oh, 4 pins. Okay, so he really only needed the first hit then. And he strikes anyway. Doesn't matter. All right. Well, Brian Voss takes home the hardware. Yeah, honestly, though, that missed single pin by Harry Sullins really did make a pretty big difference. Yeah, that missed single pin, I mean... Oh boy. But Harry did bowl a pretty good game, you know, with the exception of that missed 3 pin and that flat 10 in the 9th frame. Harry bowled a pretty decent game, but there was a little bit too much of Brian Voss in that match. Well, anyway, guys, so if you want to watch any more of these bowling breakdowns and you don't want to miss any more, then be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any videos. I'm Karsatowski. Keep watching my content, and I'll see you in that next video. See ya!